Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This kind of sucks. This is not the news that you wanted to hear on as we approach Labor Day. The Texans are moving Joe Mixon from the active/non-football injury list to the reserve non-football injury list. He'll miss the first 4 games of the season. Multiple people reporting that, as well as the Texans themselves. It's official. There's no fake news. There's no fake accounts. Something that we were anticipating. I think Aaron Wilson was maybe the first I heard at least suggest the pretty not authoritatively, but there was a real good chance that Joe Mixon was going to miss. He wasn't out there at practice at all. It wasn't like last year where they just weren't playing him in the games and he wasn't practicing that much. So it's something that you might be a little bit mentally prepared for, but it's a kick in the gut when you're going to face the Rams, one of the better teams in the NFL last year, but who had a defense that the kids would say was sus in the run defense. And weren't all that great. So it was an area of opportunity where I think a lot of people outside of Houston are thinking like, their offensive line is trash. Yeah. There's still an area of opportunity there just to round out some of the details on it. Mixon, this is from Sam Warren. Mixon's been dealing with a lower leg injury he suffered away from the team. It's a non-football injury in the spring. He was placed on the active NFI list at the start of training camp after not participating in offseason team activities. He has missed every training camp practice and preseason game since. Mixon's been with the team, receiving treatment for the injury, as well as going elsewhere for a little, whatever injections or whatever people were speculating about. But he is yet to be seen at any of the team's practices or games. And yeah, that's about the sum total of it. The thing that we'll get to the depth chart there in a second, old Sethers. Just hold your horses. The thing that makes me more optimistic than I would have been 3 weeks ago is that we've seen very real improvement from the offensive line. We've seen signs that Nick Chubb is ascending after not looking all that zippy at the beginning of training camp. He's looked a lot more like the version of Nick Chubb that you think might be realistic to get back, and he's running behind an offensive line that's cleaner, that's crisper, that's more physical than it was last year. Just to give you a reminder of the one game in which Nick Chubb played so far, 2 weeks ago against the Panthers, he did average 5 yards a carry, 25 yards on 5 carries, and first one wasn't beautiful or anything, but it was for positive yardage. Damn it. You see the line of scrimmage moving forward. And even in that clip right there, it's only for several yards, but he has vision and he has strength. And that goes a long way when you're just trying to give C.J. Stroud good field position, good, keeping the sticks moving forward. And then there, as we got down into the red zone, you really started to see his strength and his ability to drive guys back, to potentially break tackles. He didn't have a lot of opportunities in this game, but down in the red zone is where he's really started to heating up. I think the big question is, all right, how many carries per game can you reasonably rely on him for? I don't think I want to see him get 25 carries a game right off the bat. He's still recovering from that ridiculous knee injury, but I wouldn't put it past them. It's just a matter of some of the unknowns right now. Let's see what you guys are saying. I like this. We need to be mixing it up and running back in the long run. Anyhow, hopefully this puts the right pressure on one of the other running backs to stand out early. And we'll get to the depth chart on that in a second. 7 weeks. What's this? Somebody you've got a link to 7 weeks? Somebody's saying 7 weeks. Your link isn't showing up, so I don't know. Doyle Keister said he had a feeling this was coming. Yeah. So the improvements in the offensive line, I think Dameon Pierce and what he looked like the other night, and I'm curious what most people felt about Dameon Pierce. I felt that both he and Christian Harris didn't look like the classic and best version of themselves, but one of the big differences between me watching Dameon Pierce this year and me watching Dameon Pierce last year was last year I had no way of understanding or knowing exactly what was going on because the blocking in front of him was so shoddy. I thought this year the run blocking in the first half in the third preseason game wasn't as good, I don't think, as it had been in the first couple games. So you could see when we watched Dameon Pierce, and I'm going to play a clip of Dameon Pierce from the post game where he was talking about his fit in this system while I play all of his touches from the game the other night, plus a couple of pass protection snaps too. I think the pass protection snap is the first one you're going to see, but I'll get myself out of here and we'll just listen to Dameon Pierce and then discuss what he said.
Nothing against Bobby, but, we was, kind of precedent on the outside zone and going lateral before we go vertical. But Caley, he has a whole different approach to the run game. He likes a lot of duos, counters, tight zone, and periodically he likes to throw a few tosses in there. But like I said in the earlier interview, Caley kind of knows how to cater to the guys on the field and our skill sets. So I feel like when he see me in the game, he keeps my shoulders square because that's when I'm at my best, I'm my most dangerous and I'm my most comfortable. So that definitely is some truth to what the commentator was saying. I feel good. Hopefully I look good out there, man. I'm just glad to be back out there.
Yeah, two plays from this that I want to play again. The one positive and one maybe kind of an indication of what he was talking about. When we go back to, this is the one I think. From the sideline copy on TV, it looked pretty good, but watch the knockback at the end here. Right. Boom. Little pop, little wake me up, little illegal smelling salts for you. And then the other one, like that spoke to kind of he's better just going downhill. When you watch him on the outside run here, some of the things that would pop up in the outside zone last year or some of the outside runs is watch him kind of, he doesn't plant his foot and get upfield as quickly. It's just not his strength. And, but they're going to mix it up. It's not like they're never going to run inside or outside zone or anything, or just this that was like a pin and pull. So I think that you're going to get, first and foremost, out of the offense in the rushing attack this year, a lack of. You're not going to get all the negative plays that you had last year. You're not going to get the tackles for loss. You're not going to get the running backs hit in the backfield just by virtue of some of the plays they're calling. It's not as easy for defensive linemen or linebackers to stunt through a gap or slant through a gap and get deep into the backfield. There's just more of a massive wall of people. How good are these offensive linemen at actually moving people and rooting up stud defensive linemen up and out of there? We'll see. That's going to be something that's going to play out over the course of four games. But if and when Mixon does come back, I don't think he's not going to have to make something out of nothing so frequently. And all the negative stats about the how many times running backs had to break a tackle in the backfield, or the first contact was in the backfield, or the percentage of negative run plays, I don't think it's going to be as bad. Which then, and again, putting pressure on Caley and C.J. Stroud and everything else, just by virtue of it being 2nd and 7 or 3rd and 4, C.J. can try to be a ball placement specialist. C.J. doesn't have to be somebody that's taking deep shots on 2nd and 12 and 3rd and 15 as much as he did. He had the second most 3rd and 10-plus yard attempts in the league last year, and a lot of that just started with sacrificing runs to the run gods on 1st and 10 and not getting anything out of it. So I feel better about that. One thing I added to my little Ariante Ursary mix, because I feel good about Ariante Ursary. I showed you the one with some clips of Ariante Ursary and pass protection with C.J. Stroud talking about it. I added Will Anderson to the mix because he said some really nice things about Ariante Ursary, the left tackle, in the game the other day. So here is, if you're trying to find reasons for hope and optimism, here's C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson on Ariante Ursary.
I would say really he's really polished in a lot of areas. He came in polished and naturally got a good ability to pass protect. I think in the run game, he's got his feet under him, using his power to his advantage, his strength. So you see him moving guys back. You see him, using double teams to his advantage, using his leverage. So I think he's done great in pass protection, but he's taking a step in the run game.
Ariante, man, he has really shocked me a lot, man. His mindset as a rookie, man, there's not a lot of guys like that. He wants to be great. He wants to get better every day. He stays out to practice with me and Daniil, man, and you just see the grit, the grime in his game, and he has all the tools to be a great offensive lineman in this league.
Yeah, and hearing that from Will Anderson was really cool. Daniil Hunter had told me when I interviewed him that he was really impressed with Ariante's focus on skill. And for a huge guy, sometimes the guys that are monstrous, 6'6", 335 pounds, coming out of college, they're not technicians. They've gotten away with just leaning on people. And Ariante Ursary, it's very clear that you can see he uses his hands real well. The pre-snap penalties, as one of you mentioned earlier, is going to be it's going to be improved this year. It's one of the things that I actually feel really solid about. When I come out of training camp and you think, okay, I got to take everything with a grain of salt. Just the preseason is the preseason. The pre-snap operation was much smoother, crisper on all fronts. The first group there, the one big issue we had was out of Blake Fisher, who's likely not going to be starting unless there's an injury sometime between now and 2 weeks from now. So I feel good about that. The quarterbacks are getting up to the line of scrimmage with 15 to 20 seconds left on the clock. They're operating just much more efficiently and more intelligently, I think. So I don't worry about that. I think the running backs and pass protection have been astoundingly good for this stage in the preseason or the season, and especially guys like Woody Marks. So a lot of you have had questions about the depth chart. Let's pull up the depth chart right now, and let's have a look-see. Let's see. All right, so I haven't figured out how to use a pointer on this new software yet. But if you look at the running backs right up there at the top, okay, Nick Chubb, yes. Dameon Pierce, yes. Dare Ogunbowale, I'd be surprised, so yes. And then Woody Marks. I think those are your running backs. And then I think at fullback, you've got Jakob Johnson, who's a fullback / tight end. I think that Jawar Jordan and British Brooks probably don't make the cut, but they're definitely going to keep them on the practice squad. Like beyond that, like, so those are going to be your four guys. I think you're going to get a heavy dosage of Nick Chubb and Dameon Pierce on first down. I think Woody Marks has the ability to be a 3-down back, but probably initially they roll him in there as a passing game type of guy, and then Dare Ogunbowale as they see fit. So that, if Joe Mixon were healthy, maybe they would have had to make a tough decision about either Dameon Pierce or Dare Ogunbowale, but I don't think you have to do that at this point. One of you guys had said something about using the deep shots. Let's see. Okay. Hopefully the run game can be stable. If not, we see CJ air it out. That's the old give and take of all of it is that, it's a lot easier to air it out if you can actually run the ball functionally. Last year, we saw the defenses played a whole lot of shell coverages just trying to take away the deep ball. That's great because a good offensive coordinator and a competent offensive line sees that as an opportunity to say, all right, well, we're just gonna run it down your throats and we'll shred you underneath in the passing game. And they didn't do it. They weren't capable of it. This year, I think that's going to be a lot better. I think they're going to be, I don't know how good of a running team they'll be. They're not going to be one of the worst running teams in the league. Even if it's not like the San Francisco as of late when they've been really, really good where they can kill you on the ground or kill you in the air. They're not going to be stuck so many times in 2nd and 11 because there was a tackle for a loss. They're not going to be, they're going to be in manageable situations. So I feel good about that. I think they're, and this is the most astounding stat from the Texans last year was that they had the 6th most play action attempts in the league. And they're doing that. They're trying to set it up with one of the worst rushing offenses in the league. You don't have to have an awesome rushing attack, but the defense has to respect your rushing attack somewhat for the play action to work. But linebackers just got really comfortable just kind of hanging back and figuring the guys up front could handle the run, and they'll take everything as it comes to them, and you just can't do that. What did I say about Dameon Pierce? If I misspoke about Dameon Pierce, I apologize. Dameon's going to be there on the team, I believe. Okay, Rams defensive line will be hard to run through. Hopefully we can make it work. Rams were not a good rush defense last year. I think they'll be better this year. Some of it was their rookie players, Jared Verse in particular, because I know one of you guys mentioned Jared Verse. Verse, yes, as a pass rusher, was much better than his sack total would suggest. I know he only had 4.5 or 5 sacks, whatever it was. He was a lot like Will Anderson his rookie year. He had some really good rushes, but he just wasn't great at the top of his rush. Didn't separate real well. That was exactly like Will Anderson his rookie year. I think he's going to get better at that. in the run game, he struggled at times with a lot of the types of plays that the Texans are running right now. When on not traps specifically, but a lot of times with tight ends coming across the formation on split zones or on wham blocks or whatever, he was kind of unaware. So there were some weaknesses in the front seven against the run last year by the Rams. I expect they'll have that hemmed up. But I think when people are handicapping that game, they're looking at the Texans as, oh, what? They got rid of their best offensive lineman, and now they expect to actually be able to run the ball or something. Like, he wasn't a great run blocker, Laramie Tunsil wasn't. And from what I've seen in camp, I think they're going to be better running the ball this week and or this year and against the Rams than I would have thought 3 weeks ago. So that's what we know right now. Not a huge surprise that Joe Mixon is not available, but it's just, you don't want to. It's like when somebody who's I don't know. I was about to make an analogy that wasn't appropriate because it involved the death of a family member. He's not dead. He's coming back. He'll be just fine.